Good afternoon. Welcome to another incoherent version of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. Now here's your inept and incompetent host, Voice of Doom. Hello.
Voilà un joli endroit. Si on se reposait un peu.
That
Mais le fichu métier qu'on a.
is Stravinsky. And it was a piece called L'Histoire du Soldat, the history of a soldier. It's a chamber piece, theatrical, has 7 instruments and 3 narrators. And it's one of my favorite Stravinsky's because it's one of the easiest to understand, kind of sing along to. So I thought I'd play that because Stravinsky was a very able composer, and I was going to have that as my subject matter today. Before I do that, I keep forgetting I want to announce I got another subscriber, so I want to welcome Freedom Fighter to my legion of fans of 11. But it'll get bigger, I just know it will. It'll be 1,000 years from now, but it will get bigger. Now, there's a new term coming up here and there and everywhere, and it's very appropriate to the D's, and it's another word they've made up. I'm sure the new Webster's Dictionary in 2023 is going to be 10 times bigger with all the new words and pronouns that we've come up with over the last year or so. But this new word is ableism or ableist, and it's probably the most absurd one yet because it is a term used by mostly idiots to describe how unfair life is if you're not able to do something, and you should not judge someone on their ability to do something. That's unfair, it's racist, and it's biased. So we have to get rid of this ableism business. Now, before I get too much into this, which I have really nothing planned to say off the top, let's do a little update on the hammering. I want to try to keep up with what facts I've heard and what have been discarded. Okay, first of all, the whole attack is clouded in mystery. We don't know whether there was a third person in the room who opened the door to let the police in, and we're not really sure about whether the house was broken into and no security system. And we don't know a whole lot about any surveillance, which there is video surveillance of every square inch of that neighborhood, but they're not releasing anything pending trial. Pending what will be a trial, maybe. Okay, the perpetrator, DePape, or whatever his name is, held without bail, which I find unfair. He was not able to get out with no bail on the mere charge of assault and attempted kidnapping and threatening and other federal charges having to do with invading a home of a public official. Now, I don't see why they wouldn't let him go. I really don't. But a few facts that may be wrong is that maybe this Paul Pelosi character, or Pelosi, did not really know his assailant, but was using some sort of a code phrase while he was on the phone, so the assailant didn't think he was talking to the police. I'll give that to him. I'll give it to him that he did not know the person that came in, and somehow the guy just snuck in, broke the window from the inside. Whether that turns out to be true or not, we'll see. But they're not releasing a whole lot of information, but the the wokester MSM and Petri dish jumped to a conclusion less than 24 hours after the attack that he was a MAGA, and then he was incited by Orangey and the January 6ers. And now they are continuing that scenario, continuing that narrative, but also adding the caveat that they are disgusted with the Goppers. They are disgusted that the Goppers would run to the conclusion that there was something amiss and something funny about the whole attack. And they're adding obfuscation to the confusion by implying that it wasn't what it seems to be, which was a break-in by an ultra MAGA who lives in Berkeley in a bus in the front yard of someone's house, who makes hemp products and is a nudist. So I'll leave it there until more comes out, which probably none will, but I do want to go on and say, what was I going to say? The Supreme Court is meeting about deciding whether this affirmative action is right or wrong. Now, the ironic thing is that the whole thing was brought to the Supreme Court on the basis that too many Asians were getting into college. It's not that minorities were being held back from college because of their abilities. It's because the Asians were too able, and that's not fair. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think affirmative action was always an insult, and if I was a minority, I would hate it. It would be anathema to my ego to say that I was allowed into a university or gotten a job on my pedigree alone, whether it be rich, whether it be a person of color, or whether it be a South Pacific Islander. I have no idea, but affirmative action, they might say it might have had its place back in the 60s and 70s when there was just way too many Caucasoids and white male cisgenders running the show. But it's outworn its welcome, and it never should have been happening in the first place. But let's talk about this ableism business, because anyone with eyes, and that's most people on the planet, could see the Pennsylvania senatorial debate was one-sided. And when I say one-sided, I mean one side was extremely more competent and able than the other. And to say that makes you an ableist. Just because one candidate can't put two words together, cannot understand a question, cannot articulate an answer, does not mean he should be precluded from holding high office. It's wrong, it's unfair, and it's not going to stand. And it was obvious. I mean, Oz is a professional media personality doctor, medical doctor, not doctor of education, but a real doctor. And I could tell by the look on his face that he's just trying to persevere through the torture of listening to his opponent, not smirking, not shaking his head in wonder that anyone could reach such a position, but merely responding in a way that you would expect a politician to respond. Well, not a politician, a sentient human being to respond. And it was obvious that it was a rout. It was obvious to the entire world that Fetterman is mentally challenged. Now, should that preclude him from holding high office? No. That's wrong. This is a democracy. This country was built on the fact that everyone is created and will remain equal. And if they're not remaining equal through their own ability, then we will force them to be equal. So, everyone who had anything to say about the performance of John Fetterman was deemed an ableist, one of the worst people you can be, because it cuts across all races, creeds, and colors. If you're able to do something that's not fair. So let's just take this ableism to a bit further. Let's say, for instance, that you're in the middle of the Apollo era of space travel, and you send a space capsule up to the moon, and it's going to be a routine mission that after 2 landings people are already getting bored of. But for some reason there's a malfunction in this particular space capsule, and it explodes, and the astronauts are hurled willy-nilly through space. And luckily they still have enough of their technology to be able to still maneuver the craft, but it's questionable whether they're going to survive, whether they're going to burn up, whether they're go hurtling off into space. Now, I watched Apollo 13, very good movie. Everyone should have watched it by now, and if you haven't, run right out and get it, or run right to your computer and download it, because it's probably the best space movie ever made. All-star cast, and very well done. Ron Howard is one of the best directors that ever lived, really. Now, who do you want, who do you need during this time of crisis when a spacecraft is about 10,000 miles away or 20,000 and it suddenly blows up and they have to bring them back? Do you want people that are not able, that were hired by NASA in order to create diversity? We need a non-binary person of unknown pedigree who identifies as a dog on our team. Otherwise we're not diverse enough. So you get these people who are not able. We have a spacecraft out of control. Well, let's see. I guess we should just bring it down right away. Well, we have to figure out how. Well, just turn around and come back. Just take the steering wheel of the spacecraft and turn it till you're facing the Earth, and then just head back home. That's what a person says when they are hired due to ableism. We don't want people who are able. We do not want people such as Tesla, who basically discovered alternative current and made the world we know today. We do not want people like Ford or Edison, both a couple of weird idiots, but geniuses. We do not want them coming up with any ideas, because they're able. And if we didn't have them, then we wouldn't have half of the things we have on the planet today. Which may be good or bad, that's another argument. But this ableism is about the stupidest thing yet, because it's saying you're making fun of somebody who's not able to do something. Don't make fun of those scientists trying their best to turn that spacecraft around, because just because they're unable to do something, you cannot be biased against them. So if we keep going along this route, giving hope to every Gen Zer that they will one day be a rocket scientist without actually having to go to their Zoom class, it gives hope to them. You can be anything you want to be. I want to be a structural engineer, and I want to design a bridge, because then they could name that bridge after me. What do you know about structural engineering? Well, nothing. What are you, an ableist? Don't ask me what I know. Just hire me and let me build the bridge. So I said nothing. It's just one of those filler ones, a little bit sarcastic. And I was going to say more, but I don't remember what, and I got to go to work. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you for continuing to support this YouTube channel. It is free of commercials, as you may notice. So thank you, and good afternoon.